Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So today we will be starting the Administering Windows Server Hybrid Core Infrastructure portion of our session. So for those who just joined me for the first time, so let me tell you basically we already started a system administration training. We covered the basic network fundamental portion, and now we are starting Windows Server 2025 portion of this training. But uh, I decided that I should upgrade my training. Our training is basically hybrid core infrastructure. In hybrid core infrastructure, we will be covering uh, the old MCSE plus some of the Azure topic. So that's going to be the agenda. So let me Where is my whiteboard? Give me 1 second. I am going to open my whiteboard now. So, okay. Give me 1 second, guys. So, we started Microsoft System Administration training, I believe 2 or 3 weeks before. And in that training, we covered the basic, the Windows 10 administration. We already covered that portion, and then we also covered the network, the basic network topics. Like we covered remote desktop connection. We also discussed the Windows firewall configuration. We also discussed the IP addressing topic. So these topics we already covered. So from today, we are going to start Windows Server 2025. And this will be on-prem topics, right? And once we are done with that, then we will be moving toward Azure Cloud, right? So for those who are already my students of this batch, so your journey will be end here. So that is your training basically. And then for those who are interested in the AZ-800 portion, then they can continue with me with the Azure Cloud topics, right? So if you open the, let me show you something here. When you write AZ-800 in the Google search, it will give you a link. When you click on that link, then you can check the topics of this thing. So you can scroll down, and if you do not want to continue my training, you can also read these modules. You can study these module, and you can clear your concept regarding this training, right? So that is basically our training, AZ-800. So before uh, we start our topic today, so let me tell you, our agenda of today is installation and configuration of Windows Server 2025. So that is going to be our first topic, right? What is Windows Server operating system? As you know that we got two types of operating system. One type of operating system is called Windows Client OS, and the other one is called Windows Server OS, right? So if you want to have a skills of system administration, IT support, desktop support, right? So then you have to have a knowledge of Windows Client Administration and Windows Server Operating System. So what is Windows Server Operating System? You can simply write here Windows Server Operating System, right? And you can open any link, right? So in Windows Server Operating System, what we can do, I need to check the other one. I think this link would be good. Okay, I wanted to show you something. Basically, the latest version of Microsoft is Windows Server 2025. And this would be my first batch of Windows Server 2025. And also, this would be my first batch of AZ-800, the hybrid core infrastructure portion, right? So, in Windows Server operating system, we can run services, right? So, what are those services? So, we will start from domain name system. Then we will discuss Active Directory domain services. Then we will talk about some of the file servers, right? There are some web server, web services, FTP services, right? FTP server. We have DHCP server, right? So these are different services. So if you want to run or deploy these services in your network environment, you should have a knowledge of Windows Server operating system. When I was a student, I started from Windows Server 2003 when I was a student back in 2010, right? And then Windows Server 2008, R2, R1, Windows Server 2008, R2, Windows Server 2012, Windows Server 2012 R2, then Windows Server 2016, 2019, Windows Server 2022, and Windows Server 2025, right? So if you get some time, you can check the details regarding or the feature set of each product, right? But in short, what you can do, you can simply write what's new in Windows Server 2025, right? And you can open the link and then you can read it that what are the new features in Windows Server 2025. And you can read this article and you will get the idea that these are the features available in Windows Server 2025. So let's move into our practical topic, right? So our agenda of today is this thing. We will start from installation and then we will configure Windows Server 2025. So let me show you my lab. Okay. As you can see here, this is one of my ESXi hosts. If you want to build your own lab, so I can also guide you regarding that. In production environment, you need a server hardware. So these are the server hardwares, right? You can have Dell machine, HPE machine, any other uh, server hardware, right? So you need a server hardware. And then what you can do, you can write download server 2025 ISO. So you can download Windows Server 2025 ISO from the the Microsoft side, right? Download the ISO. It may ask you some of the details like your name, last name, email, company. Even you can put Gmail here and then you can start downloading. But I have already downloaded this ISO image and I already uploaded that ISO image to my ESXi host data store. And you can see here, this is the ISO image I downloaded already before your class. How is my lab? So let me tell you regarding my lab. So I have a server hardware, right? And which is connected to a switch. Let's say Cisco switch. And on top of the server hardware, ESXi hypervisor is installed, right? So ESXi hypervisor is installed. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create a virtual machine, right? And then on top of this virtual machine, I'm going to install server 2025. So that is going to be our lab today. If you want to install this product on your own laptop, so I think all of you have your own laptop with 8 GB minimum RAM. Maybe some of you have 16 GB RAM. So, and let's say you have Windows 10 or Windows 11 installed on your laptop, right? So you can install VMware Workstation on your laptop, right? And then you can create a virtual machine on your uh, VMware Workstation for Windows Server 2025, right? Any question? No question so far? Okay. So let's start with the installation of Windows Server 2025. I have already created a virtual machine and you can see here it has 4 virtual CPUs, 24 GB of RAM, 200 GB disk, and Windows Server 2025 ISO image is already attached, and a network adapter. I need to just power on this virtual machine. But before Server 2025 installation, what you need to do now, you need to write Windows Server 2025 installation requirements, right? As you can see here, hardware requirements, we got 1.4 gigahertz of CPU, 64-bit processor, 512 MB RAM is enough, but if you want to install a graphical user interface, then you need 2 GB RAM. So let me tell you one more thing. Basically, Server 2025 has two flavors. One flavor is command line interface, which is also called core server. So that is one flavor. The other flavor is graphical user interface, and we can call it desktop experience or sometime full server. So if you are going to install Windows Server 2025, you will have two options available. So what is core server? We do have a topic in our training We will discuss that how to install Windows Server Core operating system and how to configure that and how to install some of the services on top of the Windows Server Core operating system and how to manage those services. So that is our topic. Another important thing you need to understand is Windows Server 2025 editions. So we have standard edition and we have data center edition. So there are two types of Windows Server 2025. There is also another edition called Windows Server 2025 Essential, but these two editions are what we have to use in our training, right? So for those who just join us, let me explain it. Basically, uh, we already started Microsoft System Administration training, and we also covered these two portions already. And today we are going to start this portion, which is Windows Server 2025 administration, or that is going to be on-prem solution. Once we are done with these topics, so it means our Microsoft System Administration training is finished. But in AZ-800 training, they included some of the Azure topics. And if you are asking regarding the course outline for this training, you can simply visit Google and you can write AZ-800, right? And it will give you a link in which has all the topics included related to this course. Once you're done this course, you can take the exam and you will achieve a certification for this code, right? And you will also get a badge. Okay. So let me give you some time if you have any question. If not, so then I can continue and we can start the installation portion. So my machine is ready. So I can simply power on this virtual machine and I can install Windows Server 2025. Okay. You can simply, I think these are understandable options. Install Windows Server. So we are going to install it. Okay, now you got four options. This option and this one is for CLI, command line interface. But if you want to install a graphical user interface, then you should select this option. So we are going for this option. What is the difference between standard and data center edition? In standard edition and data center edition, almost all the features are same, but there are some difference in the feature set. For example, one of the difference is that in standard, you can run limited number of virtual instances. So let's say if you have a hardware, right, and you have installed Windows Server Standard Edition and you have Hyper-V running on this machine, so you can only run two virtual machine on top of this. What is Hyper-V? We have a topic on that. So in Standard Edition, you have limited virtualization. But in Data Center Edition, you have unlimited virtualization. It depends on the resources you have available. And you can also read about it online. Maybe you get some sheets from the Microsoft as well. So I have selected the Data Center Edition here, and we can simply start the installation. right? So if you want to do the partition stuff, we already discussed the partition. So you can select that and then you can start installation. So finally, we have started the installation. Okay, I think we have not started yet, so let me start it. So this is how you can install Windows Server 2025. I'm going to take a break for a while, so I will pause the recording. As we can see here, our installation is in progress. So during the installation time, we can save our time and we can talk about Windows Admin Center. Basically, let's assume this. Let's say you have uh, a company and they have some applications, and these applications are, for example, email services, right? They have database service, they have some web services, right? They have some file services. So this is going to be the infrastructure of a company. And you are the system administrator, right? You have, let's say, a Cisco switch here. And for example, you have server hardware. This is one hardware. Let me, okay. And on top of the server hardware, you have installed server operating system 2025. And for example, you have some services running. Let's say you have services running. So how many server you need? You have second, third, and fourth. Give me 1 second, guys. I have a call. So let's say this is your infrastructure, right? And you are the system administrator. So as in system administrator, this is your responsibility to manage these servers. So let's say you have to install some services here. So you will log into this server, right? And then you will install the services. Let's say you need to do some changes on this machine. You will have to log into this machine or physically connect to that machine or maybe RDP to that machine. So depends on your scenario. So same is the case for the other one and for the other one. So we do have a dashboard available which is called Windows Admin Center. So Windows Admin Center is basically a tool, a management tool. We can install it on this machine, or maybe if you have a Windows 11 or 10 machine, you can also install this Windows Admin tool on any of the machine in the network. And let's say this is your laptop, this is you have a management PC. From the browser, you can open the Windows Admin Center. So you will have a dashboard on your browser. Then you can add all these servers to that dashboard. Once you add them, then if you have to do some changes on these machines, so you don't need to log into these machines separately. You will have a single dashboard and you can do that. For those who have already attended my VMware vSphere training, so in VMware vSphere training, we have a tool called vCenter Server. So vCenter Server can manage multiple ESXi hosts. So Windows Admin Center is also an administration tool, right? Which you can use to manage multiple server. And the good thing is you can also manage some of the Azure workload from the same dashboard. So if you have some workload running on the Azure cloud, and if you have some workload running on your on-prem, you can manage both from a single dashboard. You can also integrate some of the cloud services through Windows Admin Center. So that's also the benefit of that. Does it make sense? So once we install the Windows Server operating system on this machine, let's say, so the first thing would be to do the basic configuration like host name of the machine, IP address of the machine, Windows firewall configuration. Maybe you need to for our lab we will disable it. But in your production environment, you will have to configure the Windows firewall. Date and time setting, right? Windows update, right? So we will do the basic configuration. Once we are done with that, then our next topic would be how to install roles or features or services on the server operating system. And then we will also talk about the Windows Admin Center, right? So let's see. Finally, okay, the installation is still in 33%. So what I can do, I can pause for a while. Record. As you can see here, finally our Windows Server 2025 installation has been completed. Once the installation is completed, it will give you this option. In Windows 10, when we were discussing the Windows 10, by default the built-in administrator account is disabled, but in Windows Server 2025, the built-in administrator account is by default enabled. And if you want to skip this one, it will not allow you. Because by default, the password policies are already configured. So you need to put a strong password here. So let's say the strong password is abc123 at the rate, up to you guys. So normally, okay, so I use this password for my labs. So I will use this password, right? And you can click finish. For the security purpose, they have already also enabled another option. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Uh, since the installation is completed already, I can unmount the ISO image, and you can do the same thing. In VMware Workstation, if your installation is completed, you can unmount it, right? So it will ask for Control Alt Delete to unlock. So if you have a physical machine, you can simply uh, con- uh, press Control Alt Delete. But if you have a VMware Workstation virtual machine, you can use Control Alt Insert key. Instead of delete, you have to use Insert key. But you can also click here, like we do have this option available. So what I can do, I can send these keys to my virtual machine and I can log into this virtual machine. So finally, the Windows Server 2025 installation is completed. Since this is a virtual machine, we need to install VMware tools, right? So I'm going to install VMware tools. And why we need to install VMware tools? So to get a good performance of the mouse and to get a good performance of display, just like in your physical machines, when you install operating system on your laptop or server hardware, you then install drivers, right? So VMware tools are also like a drivers for the virtual machine. So which is why these are important. All right. Okay, I can accept this. And let me install VMware tools first so that I can get a good mouse performance. As you can see, I'm going to close this. Okay, any question in the meantime, guys? No question so far? Are we good? Okay, so let's talk about Server Manager. When you log into Windows Server operating system, right, the first thing you will be interacting with is Server Manager. In physical server, which port will use for login? Mr. Sajad, in physical server, let's say if you have a physical machine, you can directly log into the server. I think you don't need to use any port number. And I'm also not getting your question. If you can explain it a little bit more, we can talk about it. Okay. So as you can see here, our server manager is open. You are getting this option integrated. You can see here instead of server manager, you can use Azure Arc and the new Windows Admin Center built into the Azure portal to manage this one. So you can also use that, but let's focus on the some of the other topic. I'm going to restart this machine for a while. So let me restart this machine and then we can talk about that thing. Resume recording. Okay. So we have installed VMware tools on this machine. Now we are going to do some. So the same thing. I have a question from Mr. Sajad regarding the RDP. So basically, if you have a virtual machine or physical machine with Windows Server operating system installed, there is nothing to be changed. I mean, the Windows Server operating system or the RDP port number is going to be the same. But just the difference is one operating system is installed on the physical machine and the other one is installed on the virtual machine, right? So there is no difference. The RDP port will be the same. So as you can see here, the installation is completed. So by default, it will open the Windows Server operating system. So let's talk about the Windows Server operating system, the Server Manager dashboard. Let me skip this message for a while, and you can see here we have these options. The first thing is configure this local server. It means that I need to set an IP address, host name, Let's say this server is going to be my web server. So I can give it a name, for example, web server 01, web server 02, depends on your environment. How to add roles and features. The question is, what is the purpose of installing Windows Server operating system? And the answer is that we can run different services. For example, DHCP server, file server, web services, right? So how to install those services? Do we need a separate setup files or do we need an internet connection? You don't need anything else. All these services are already available on this server operating system. You just need to add them regarding based on your scenario, based on your requirements, right? So this option can be used, or maybe you can use this option, right? And install it. What is this option? Add other servers to manage. Let's say you have server 1, you have server 2, you have server 3, you have server 4. In the new server manager, what you can do, you can, let's say this is your server manager on this machine. You can add all these servers to the same single server manager. And from a single server manager, you can manage multiple server machines. This is something also available. But instead of this, the best tool is Windows Admin Center. And also we will talk about Azure Arc. What is that feature used for? We will discuss that as well. What is this option? Create server groups. Let's say you have a very big environment and you have 100 servers and all of them are added here. And some of them are web servers, some of them are file servers, some of them are database servers. So you can also create groups for them. So let's say you create a group and add all the web server to the web server group. So that is something also possible. We do have this option available. Connect this server to cloud services. Let's say you want to use your on-prem servers, but you want to add some of the cloud services. You can add them using this, right? So this is something also possible, right? So let's start with the first option, which is local server. So in local servers, as you can see here, this is the overview of this server, the information regarding this server. You can see here, this is the computer name, workgroup, and domain. We will discuss that what is the difference between workgroup and domain. By default, the Windows Defender firewall is on. You can configure it and you can create some rules or you can uh, disable it simply for your lab purpose. What is remote management? So let's talk about that. Let's say you have a server hardware, right? And you have server operating system installed. And for example, you have DNS service installed. This machine is connected to the switch, and this is your Windows 11 PC, right? So your service is running on this server operating system, which is DNS server, but you can manage that server service from the Windows 11 machine. And for that, you need to install our RSAT tool, Remote Server Administration tool. First, you need to install that tool on your Windows 11. Once you install it, then you can use DNS Manager. So DNS Manager will be running on this Windows 11 but it will be managing this server. And by default, the remote management option is enabled. Let's say you have two services running and you have two people to manage this server. So let's say the other guy has another Windows 11 machine. So you can install RSET tool here as well, right? And let's say you can install IIS manager here. So this guy will be managing the web services of this server, and this guy will be managing the DNS services of this server. And if you ask me what is the difference between remote desktop and remote management, so both are different, you know. In remote desktop, you get access to the whole machine desktop. You log into that machine and whatever you are doing on that machine, right? So you get a full access of the server. But in remote management, you are you are managing a specific service of the server operating system. So if you want to enable remote desktop services of this machine, you can simply click on this disabled link and you can simply allow remote machines and that's it. You can confirm it here as well. We have enabled it, but it's still showing disabled. So for that, you need to refresh the server manager dashboard. You need to change the computer name. So that is important. So let me change it to server 01 dash 25 and you can click OK. It might ask you to restart the machine. So that's fine. You can restart it. Okay. What is NIC teaming? Let's say you have a server hardware, right? And server operating system is installed. It is connected to the switch, but it has only one network adapter. Sorry, this one. This is the one network adapter. And let's say the speed of this network adapter is 1 Gbps. You have some application running here, and you got some end users which are requesting to this server. So let's say you have 50 users now, and your network performance is stable. But after some time, the number of 50 user increased to 100. So now 100 users are requesting to this server. So definitely the 1 Gbps speed is not enough for that. So as in system administrator, you can follow this strategy. You can attach another network adapter. When you attach another adapter, it means that this network adapter will have a separate IP address and this will have a separate IP address, right? So again, this is something not a good practice in some scenarios because you will be distributing the workload manually. But we do have a neck teaming option available, and you can combine these two uh, network adapter, right? Sorry. Okay. So what you can do, you can combine these two network adapter and it will increase the speed of these two network adapter. So you will get 2 Gbps of speed, 2 Gbps of speed. So with neck teaming, what you can do, you can uh, increase the speed of your network, right? And Another option is when you combine them, you will get a logical interface. And instead of assigning IP address to the physical adapters, you will uh, you will assign IP address to the logical adapter. So your server will have a single IP address, right? And your client will be requesting to that single network adapter. But the neck teaming will decide that which physical adapter will be used for which traffic. So automatically the load balancing will be done. And the good thing is if one of the physical adapter is down, still there will be no downtime. Because at least if single physical adapter is available, then uh, the communication will be still uh, continue, right? Any question? So let's do the next teaming, right? How we can do that? We need another network adapter. So since this is our virtual machine, what I can do, I can simply edit my virtual machine like this, edit settings, and I can attach another network adapter. And after some time, you will see here when you refresh it, I will have Ethernet 1 also available. In VMware Workstation, you can perform the same thing. And if you have a physical server hardware, so that the story is different. But in virtual machine, this process is very easy. You can attach more than two network adapters as well. And and this is a task for you people that you should search in the internet that how many physical adapters we can attach or we can create a NIC teaming of how many physical adapters. So let's do this. Let's combine these two adapters. But before combining these two adapters, let me also configure the Windows firewall. But as we already discussed the Windows firewall configuration in our last topics, so I will just disable the Windows firewall and that's it. Sorry. And finally, okay. So the Windows firewall is disabled and let me configure NIC teaming. So you can click the disable option. Once you click that, give me 1 second. Okay. You can see Ethernet 0 and Ethernet 1. Uh, okay, as devices connection depends on switch. Uh, yes, it depends. Like if you have, this is another story, like how they design a network, especially in the CCNA course, you will learn that what is core layer, what is distribution layer, what is access layer. So here in the Microsoft training, we mainly focuses on only access layer or sometime distribution layer because this is a system administration training. It's not a network administration training. But hopefully in near future, uh, we are planning to start the Cisco batch as well. But now let's focus on this one. So you can see here we have Ethernet 0 and Ethernet 1. There are some rules. For example, if you want to configure, okay, do you have any idea regarding the Ether channel or the port aggregation? Is there any Cisco guy? Anyone has idea regarding the Ether channel or the port aggregation? So the same concept is used here. So we are going to combine these two network adapters. So you can select these two network adapter and you can right click and you can click add to a new team. You can give it a name, for example, my team. And when you click the additional properties, by default, this option is switch independent. That's fine. But if you have LACP configured on the switch side, link aggregation control protocol, or I forgot the abbreviation of that, so you can use this one. There is a static teaming option also available. And you also got some load balancing mode. You can use address hash, or you can use Hyper-V port, depend on you. Do you want to keep one adapter in as a standby mode? It means that only one adapter will be used. So you will only get 1 Gbps of speed. But if you disable this standby adapter option, so all adapters will be active. If you have a VLAN configuration, you can also configure that. So as you can see here, finally, our NIC teaming is enabled. So now I got 3 network adapters. So if I have to assign IP address to this machine, which adapters I should use? If I have to assign IP address to this machine, which network adapter I will be using? I should use. Should I assign IP to this one or maybe this one? So once you enable NIC teaming, you don't need to assign IP address to the physical network adapter. You will be assigning IP address to this one. Are you getting my point, guys? So let's assign IP address. Let's first confirm the IP range. So our IP range is 192.168.1. If you don't know about the IP addressing, I already uploaded a lecture on my YouTube channel, so you can watch that lecture. So I'm going to disable the IP version 6 and I'm going to assign this IP address 1 dot, for example, 153. And what is going to be the default gateway? And I will use this one. So finally, this is going to be the IP address. Let me check the connectivity from my management PC. So this is my management PC. I'm going to open CMD here and I will ping 192.168.1.153. I'm getting response. And let me show you the beauty of NIC teaming or the benefit of NIC teaming. Let me write -T for continuous ping request, and I'm going to show you something. Let me disable one of the network adapter here. So I just disabled one of the network adapter and still you can see the ping packets are still going on. So in NIC teaming, if one adapter fails but another is available, at least one is available. Let's say if you have 3 physical adapter participating in the NIC teaming and only one is available, still you there the connectivity will be still continue. So that is one of the benefit of the NIC teaming. So, but if you check the speed of this adapter, you will have only 1 Gbps. But if you enable this one, right? So after some time, when you check the speed again, you will get a 2 Gbps of speed. Are we good? Okay, let me check the speed of this one, 2 Gbps. So, okay, another important thing is, okay, we also have Azure Arc Management disabled by default, but we can enable it. What's that? We will discuss it in this topic. Remote SSH access. I think you guys are familiar with SSH, so you can also enable or disable this one. On the right side is in, you also need to install updates and Internet Explorer Enhanced Security is enabled by default, which means that if you open a browser on the server operating system, then there will be it will ask for some permission, but you can also disable the security of that. Make sure that the time. So let me change the time. Let me change my time zone. So because I'm in Pakistan, so I will be using this one. In your case, you can use your own. So these are the basic configuration. Let me revise you what we have done so far. We have a hardware. On top of this, we install server operating system. After installation, give it a host name, IP address, configure NIC teaming, configure Windows firewall, disable or enable remote desktop, change the date and time, and then once the machine is ready, you can uh, restart the machine now. So that is it. Let me pause the recording again. So finally, let me review what we have learned so far. So let me open the paint and let me show you something. What we have learned so far, installation of Windows Server 2025, and then we discussed the basic configuration of Windows Server 2025. So we already covered that. Our next portion is how to add role or features, right? That is our topic. So as we can see here, we finally installed server operating system here. This is the server 2025 is installed already. Now our next task is to install some roles or feature. What is role and what is feature? Role is basically, let's say I want you to install DHCP service. So there is a built-in role available for that. You just need to go to server manager and then from there you can add the role of DHCP services and it will also add some of the helping components of the DHCP services. So let's say we are going to install DNS server, for example. What is DNS server? That is going to be our next topic, right? So let's start from this one. So I'm going to, where is my machine? I think this is the machine. You can see here. If you want to install a role or feature, you can simply open Server Manager, and from Server Manager, you can install it. You can, first you need to confirm the configuration of this machine. So let me, okay. So first you need to confirm the machine. The name of this machine is server 01-25. We also configured the Windows firewall. In our case, we disabled it. Remote management, remote desktop, NIC teaming is enabled, IP address is assigned already, time and date is set. Everything looks good. You can simply click manage, and then you can click add roles and features. Give it some time. Once you do that, so let's give it a time. So there are different methods to install a service or role on the server operating system. One method is you can use server manager like this. I think we still need to wait for it, right? So let's give it some time. And then, okay. I think it should be okay now. Perfect. Okay. So you need to read these uh, guidelines that the administrator account has a strong password, network settings such as static IP address are configured, the most security updates from Windows updates are installed. Once it's done, you can click next. You will get two options here. One option is role-based or feature-based installation. The other one is for remote desktop services. So we do have a topic which is similar to VDI. So if you have to make this machine ready for the VDI environment, so then you can go for this one. But in our initial topics, most of the time we will be using this option. So I'm going to select this option, which is the default one, and you can click next. As we discussed that we can manage multiple servers from a single server manager. So you can see here, if you have multiple servers already added, you will have a list of those servers and you can pick any one and you can click next. In our case, we have only one server, which is this local server. So I can go for it. Then these are the roles, right? So let's say you want to install DNS role. So you can select DNS server. When you click on that, it will give you a message that do you want to install the administration tool for DNS server? So if you want to install it on the same server, you can add them. But if you do not want, if you want to use Windows 11 using our set tool for administration, so then you can skip this one. In our case, we will add these features, so you can add them and you can hit next. What is feature and what are roles basically? So role features are basically if you want to add something to this server. Features, sorry. So let's say by default BitLocker option is not available in your server. So you can add that feature to your server. Let's say you want to add Windows Server backup feature. So you can also add them. So these are different features. Let's say by default, telnet client is not available, the command. You can also add them, right? And this is how you can install a role or feature. In the latest version of the Windows Server, they will also give you this option, which were not available in the previous Server 2008 operating system. And what was the drawback of that? In Windows Server 2008, if you would install a role or feature on the server, and if that role needed a restart, a reboot of the machine, it would be automatically restart the machine. But in the latest version, like Windows Server 2012, 2016, 19, 2022, they give this option so you can check this button. If when you check that button, automatically it will restart the machine. But if you skip that button, then the role or the option or the service will be installed, but it will give you uh, a message that do you want to restart the machine now or later? So it depends. And as per Microsoft recommendation, you do not need to install anything during peak hours because sometimes they will ask for a server reboot, and if this is your peak time and your clients are requesting to the server, so then that is the problem. All right. Any question? So we have finally installed the uh, how to add role and feature. How to remove role and feature, that is simple. You can do that as well. How to remove roles or features. You can also perform like that. So let's go back to this one. So we can wait for a while. You, as you can see here, guys, finally we have installed the DNS services on this machine. If you want to remove a role or feature, you can simply remove it like this. So let's say you don't need it. You can simply uncheck that and you can click next. If you want to check this button, it means that if there is a reboot needed, automatically the machine will be rebooted. And let's discuss the last topic of today's agenda, and that is introduction to Windows PowerShell, right? So I think all of you are familiar with CMD, right? Command prompt. And
Yeah,
also in our training, in our basic training, we also covered some of the topic using Windows, using CMD, right? But if you see here, I think the machine is rebooted now, so we can wait for a while. Did I resume the recording? Okay. In the meantime, I can open this in tab on my management PC and I can write Windows PowerShell. So basically, PowerShell is a cross platform. It is available in Windows, Linux, and Mac OS automation and configuration that works with your existing tools and it, right? So you don't need to install anything, right? You can open this link and you can read about it. There are a lot of PDFs available having Windows PowerShell commands, and you can download them and you can work on that, right? you can do that. So let's go back to the machine here. I think our server machine is going to be. So let's do one thing. Whatever we did in our last uh, task, we installed DNS service. So now we are going to install DNS server using Windows PowerShell. Let's do that. If you don't know the command, you can simply write DNS installation using Windows PowerShell, and they will give you this command. Install Windows feature dash name dash DNS. And if you want to install it with admin tools, right? So you can do that. So there are different command sets available, and you can install DNS server like that. So let me log into that server again, and I'm going to show you a last activity of this today's session. Inshallah, tomorrow we will be discussing this in details. So let me log into this one. Okay. In Microsoft, you will have to be very patient. Okay, so this is my Windows Server 2025 machine. Where is this? Sorry guys, I'm playing with different machines now. I can open Windows PowerShell now. And let's say you don't know the command of DNS server installation. So what you can do, you can install, you can open the browser. Let's say this one. I just open it, right? You can open a browser in your Windows Server operating system. And in the browser, you can simply write DNS server installation using PowerShell. So let's do that, right? So let me open Google Chrome, Google browser first. And once you do that, you can simply write DNS server installation using Windows PowerShell, right? And you can copy this command from here. Even if you are lazy with writing the commands, and in the Windows PowerShell, you can paste it and you can hit enter. And finally, after some time, you will see the result and the DNS server will be installed. You got it?
Sorry, sir, what you write in the current window?
So basically, I copied the command. Let me show you here. Sorry, I just closed okay. What I did actually, I
Install
write,
Windows feature. Okay.
okay, yep, I just write install Windows DNS server, and that is the command. Install dash Windows feature dash name. You can type that command in the Windows PowerShell, and once you do that, the Windows PowerShell, the DNS server will be installed using PowerShell. And that was not included in our today's topic, so which is why I just give you an intro of that. So inshallah, tomorrow we will continue. Tomorrow we might start DNS server, that what is DNS server and how it works. But just to give you an overview of today's session, so we started from installation of Windows Server 2025 and then we configure the basic things. After that, uh, we install some roles and features using a server manager or using the Windows PowerShell, right? So I hope you learned something new today. Inshallah, see you tomorrow.